Welcome back, welcome in, welcome all. Another week of the Like That podcast with people you can't really see right now because got some bags over our heads. Of course, myself, Nick, and Brooklyn. Brooklyn's taking some time, at least at the beginning of the episode, just to sulk in what's happened. Oh.
Welcome back to Like That, the sports podcast.
Are you okay?
Mentally or physically?
Physically?
I'd say better than mentally. That wasn't great though.
You have to show off the full grout fit too, guy. Can you see?
No, I can barely breathe too.
Oh, that's good. Okay. How about you, Nick? How are you feeling after what's happened?
Not great. I put all my faith into the Chicago Bears. Probably not the best idea. It looked pretty good for most of the game, and then the Caleb Williams interception at the end really just the arrow straight through the heart. I let out the biggest fuck ever. Yeah, I'm in shambles.
I think it's only right as a group that we have a little apology to the viewers. So cue the music. But I'd like to start by apologizing to those valiantly looking at my picks of the week. I will look away from the Kansas City Chiefs. They will not be a pick of the week. Fool me one time, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, shame on me. This is bad. It was a bad pick. And I'd like to apologize to Titans fans. I shit on you all year. I can't stand by you. And, even against the Cleveland Browns team, I still stood by the Browns. And you showed out, Cam Ward. So I apologize there. And I think another quick one, we barely talked about the Vikings last week. You get steamrolled. You put up a goose egg, Max Brosmer, and then 9 comes back and shows why he has the nickname. Puts on a 9 performance. So, not my finest week.
I would like to sincerely apologize to the New Orleans Saints organization in general. I said some very vocal things about this team last week, and they must have taken that personally, because Tyler Shuck had a career day last week against the Tampa Bay Bucks, team that I've been high on all year long. I was wrong. They made me eat my words. Tyler Cuck just fucked me. So I apologize to the Saints organization in general. I'm eating my words.
Yeah, where's my mic?
You got it.
Yep, you're good. There we go. I actually want to apologize to 70% of the NFL. And that's like honestly for believing in 70% of the NFL. If we took a deeper dive into that spreadsheet, did not do great for those spread picks, and a little too much faith in the Cowboys for thinking that a streak really determines that they're the team that's like that against the Lions. Small apology to the Chargers for thinking that earlier on a couple episodes that I really hated them. Offensively, not really too much apologies there. That was a horrible game, but defense actually did something for once. But other than that, apologies to 70% of this National Football League for thinking that they were the teams that I thought they were. I can't wait to take this off. I can't breathe.
I was gonna say, now let's get into Thursday night. I'm getting hot under here.
Where did I fall?
Wow, you guys look so great.
This is a good look for me, I have to say.
Flip this around.
We're going to keep this around. We're going to need it.
All right. New week, new us.
Here we go. Put on the Rocky
Here we
music.
go.
Fire me up. There's got to be a soundboard moment for that.
That's just nasty.
That's how you fire us up. Ridiculous.
Let's go, baby.
You just like threw a bunch of water all over the campfire. You said, "Let's go, guys." Thursday night football.
Excited and muted myself there.
Thursday night football. I'm moving, rubbing my hands. I'm excited here. We got the Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa minus 4.5 point favorites. Total of 44.5. Drake London confirmed out. Kyle Pitts a little questionable here. And looking at two teams that were the Bucks, you heard in the apology video, Tyler Shuck balled out. And Bucks not only did not cover, but they lost the game. And then you have a Falcons team that I'm already blanking on just the chaos of that it was last week, but it was a bad week for them and facing the Seattle Seahawks. Line at 4.5. Looking at what we have for picks here, I'm the only one defending Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons. But I'd first like to hear from you guys and why we believe in Tampa.
Well, first of all, I rely on this defense a little bit more than Atlanta's defense, and I know that's something crazy to say because this team just came off of a brutal loss to the Saints. But after a bad week like that, especially against a struggling Atlanta offense with Kirk, I think that this is a division game that they need to capitalize on, especially being at home. Only 4.5 favorites. They've covered this line before this year, and if there's a dire need to get a win for Tampa, it's now. They got Mike Evans and McMillan coming back off of IR. That's huge for them, especially for that offense that's been for a receiving core that was lackluster. They were still getting it done, but as the season has gone on, it's starting to show its cracks. So for them to come back, that's huge. So I like Tampa in this regard.
Yeah, I mean, I just overall think that Tampa's the stronger team. Falcons defense is the only thing that really is going to keep them in this game. But to me, I think that the Bucks pulled this off by a touchdown. Not too much more than that, but I just think that the Falcons really are not going to be able to get much of anything going, just offensively. And Bucks obviously got to be feeling horrible after losing to the Saints there. But yeah.
Yeah, for me, looking at just like the early openings on the money percentage, you saw a lot going to Tampa. Which if you go off of last week, it was I believe the top 7 games that had the most bets placed on them. Only one of them, being the Seahawks, actually covered. So that shows that the Ninos had a pretty good week, and I take that into consideration when I'm looking at my picks. And that's kind of the main reasons why I did lean Atlanta. I mean, you're talking about a game where they still absolutely got killed by nearly 30 points against the Seahawks, and they finished with over 120 yards rushing. Third in the league in sacks per game against a Tampa O line that's seen some injury struggles this year. And you're talking about a Baker Mayfield that was 1 for 12 last week when passing over 10 yards. So I think there are some question marks there, and I think it really does stir up the pot on that division race, especially if the Bucks lose. So I like Atlanta in this spot, and I think with that the Bucks have struggled to guard the tight end very much. I feel like I say that every week on my players to watch, but Bucks are in the top 5 on points allowed to tight ends. So I like Kyle Pitts again.
Is he questionable? Is he leaning towards playing?
He's leaning towards
probably
playing from
gonna
what I
lean
knew.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Bucks are the only team in this game that really has anything to like actually play for. And not only that, but I mean, actually no, that is my strongest point is that they're the only team in this matchup that has something to keep on playing for. So I think they're gonna come out
Well,
trying to play some.
well, Atlanta's first round pick, is owned by the Rams, so it doesn't necessarily help them to lose.
That's true. That is true. But Brooklyn and I, Bucky Irving, that's our player to watch. I also agreed with Bucky just because realistically he has been the go-getter for this offense since he's been back. He's found the end zone every single time. And if they want to get started hot and they want to get started early, I feel like he's the guy that they're going to go through, especially if you have Mike Evans, who's just coming back off of that injury, who I thought wasn't even going to play again this season. So, with a healthy Bucky and how good he's looked coming off of injury with not playing for most of the season, I think he's a solid start this week.
And that's Thursday night. Stay tuned at the end of the episode because we do have some prop plays, just like last week, which we didn't even discuss in full, but we'll recap that at the end. But yeah, three props from the three of us. Make a little lay out of it. It's plus 572, I think, as of right now, but we'll get to that at the end of the show. Moving forward, I think one of the more entertaining matchups of this week, because as we get through the spreadsheet, you'll discover that there are a lot of just crazy spreads, and again, not some crazy matchups. But we have a rematch in the division. We have the Bills at the Patriots. New England plus 1.5 at home as the second seed in the AFC. Slight chance of snow. We're seeing a total of 50.5. And you're looking at a New England team that is 9-4 against the spread. I found a couple interesting things about Mike Vrabel with his time with the Titans. After a bye, he was 5-1 against the spread, 6-0 outright. And for a Drake May team that when he's played the Bills, he's 3-0 against the spread. And the run game's still been efficient. Looking at the spreadsheet, you see both Nick and I on the Patriots. Got a little rivalry here for the podcast as well. A little Pats Bills. Got the hosts v hosts. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to put the bias away. I originally put Buffalo in this spot. But digging deeper into the numbers, we've seen Buffalo. I mean, they didn't cover last week against Cincinnati. And yeah, you can make that argument that Buffalo, obviously needs to guarantee themselves a playoff spot. But this New England team is just continuing to roll. We've seen them beat the Bills earlier, so I'm curious to hear Brooklyn's side of this.
I mean, looking at Buffalo, this is the smallest spread I think that they've been favored in all year. Like every single time that I've either gone with the Bills or bet on the Bills, that's been by a spread of at least like either 5.5 or more than a touchdown. Uh, right now in a game like this where each game matters for both of these teams. I'm banking on the Bills to keep that momentum from what we just saw last week. Offensively wise, defensively still so many lapses, but in a spread that's this narrow, like I said, I told you guys before the episode, spread this narrow is where I really will lean, especially with the favorite, just because so many things just like literally within a field goal or a little bit more, like more than 2 points is all they need to cover for this. And I think that this is an offense that's that powerful. If we look at their red zone drives that turn to touchdowns, 61%, their ability to finish a drive, very strong once they get within the 20. And of course, being a Bills fan, I got to lean with them and hope that they can continue just to keep the momentum from the Bengals game.
All biasy aside, I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. But for me, the Patriots are just a better team. They've been playing so much better. They've won 10 games straight. They're coming off a much needed bye week. They've been banged up, especially on the offensive line and the defensive line. They've lost some key players. But coming off of a bye week, if they win this game, they clinch the AFC East. They haven't done that since Brady's left. For Drake May to do that in his second year starting, that would be huge. This team's got a lot to play for. And they've already beat this Buffalo team once. They have all the momentum going in at home. And especially with a very high total, I see Drake May balling out. It's hard for me to it's hard for me to go against a better football team, in my opinion. And just the way that the Patriots have been playing, even getting out of the tough game situations, they've been a dominant team. And I don't see them slowing down, especially at home. If they have a chance to clinch the division this early in the season, I see them doing it.
I think a win today clinches the playoffs. I don't know if it might also be the division with it being against the Bills.
Well, Buffalo is second in the division. They've already beat them once. If they beat them twice, they clinch the division. That's it.
Fair enough. I say I'm on the Pats side of this, but at the same time, my player to watch is still going to be James Cook, a Patriots team in the second half that in fantasy has allowed 14 points to the running back position, which isn't too crazy. But when you look at this Bills offense, I mean, yeah, Josh Allen's at the helm and he's the one creating it all, but his main receiving option has essentially been James Cook. You talk about like throughout the whole season. So I think Cook has a good game both on the ground and through the air. But I still take the Pats to win this game.
I'm leaning on Kincaid. Him coming back, we all thought he was going to be, or at least I thought he was going to be on a minutes restriction or a snap restriction. But even then, made a pretty solid performance out of last week. First game coming back off of IR, logged a touchdown, and before that, we knew that he was Josh's primary target, especially for anything safe. And big guy in the red zone there. I think if there's going to be any time for him to pick up some touchdowns, it's going to be in some of these shorter drives. I think the Bills are bound to see something within the 40, 30 plenty of times this game.
Going with the only Patriot here, I'm taking Travion Henderson as my player to watch this week. Last time Pats played the Bills, Ramondre Stevenson was a huge impact on that game. The run game was solid. This time around, though, Ramondre hasn't really gotten that big snap count. Travion's kind of taken over the role. So it's going to be a little different for this Bills team. They're getting a different New England-style offense. They've kind of utilized Travion in different ways than Stevenson. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference maker. So I think Travion's going to be a good start this week.
Advancing on, I mentioned a lot of these crazy high spread games that we're going to face, and this is one of them. Jets at the Jags, minus 13.5 for Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence, in his history with the Jags, has never faced a line this big. I think the largest line he's covered is 7. The Jaguars themselves haven't covered a line over 11 since 2007. But the offense has been rolling the last couple of weeks. We've seen a Jets team that is top 8 against the spread. They have an above 500 record in that way. And a Jets team that also, we don't know. I mean, it's not the first time. They haven't told us the quarterback before the matchup, but looks like with the injuries to Fields and Tyrod, we might be seeing Cook back there as the QB of the helm there. All of us here.
Can't say last name Cook as if we're like, oh yeah, the Cook guy on the Jets. Who is? I'm sorry, he probably makes more than me.
Who
But
is
who
Cook?
is Brady Cook?
Well, we don't think he's going to cook because we're all in Jacksonville here. And a large part of me actually did want to believe in the Jets, but I think with Cook starting, I couldn't do it. So and especially with how Jacksonville's played, Jacksonville could very well just put belt to ass at home.
I'm kind of there with you. I also was on the Jets in the spreadsheet earlier on in the day, but with the whole quarterback scenario, and if it's not Tyrod, I took them to cover 13.5 against Baltimore. But this one, I mean, they're going up against a much better defense, and Jacksonville still lead the league in takeaways, fewest rushing yards allowed per game. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty rough if it is Brady Cook under the helm. And regardless of Jacksonville's offense has looked good their last 4 games, and they've covered, they've won their last 4 and have covered the spread in their last 4, so they've been looking pretty good. But quick little stat. Sorry, Brooklyn. The Jets have scored 4 special teams touchdowns in 14 weeks. That is the most since the 2014 Eagles. It's a new record. I thought that was pretty interesting, but it also goes to show you how their offense can't really do much. They're scoring the ball, not even with the offense stepping on the field. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a will, they somehow will find a way. Yeah, I originally, like, when these lines first came out, or actually when I was looking at the spreadsheet today, I was like kind of leaning towards the Jets too, but then I saw the QB carousel going on right now, and I was like, I cannot possibly put my faith in a possible, like, another Brosmer situation. Um, so if I'm looking at Jacksonville, like, the team that's been on a roll recently, especially T-Law, for a guy who I shit on earlier on when we started this off, he's been on a roll recently too. And I'm honestly, can I just carry that into my player to watch?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it.
Yeah, player to watch here this week. I got T-Law. Pretty stellar, honestly, in the last couple of weeks here. I know, bad injury for Daniel Jones really made that a little bit more difficult for the Colts to compete. But nevertheless, he's gone from a guy who, still not a great touchdown to interception ratio. But in the last couple of weeks, especially fantasy-wise, he's logged 23, 25, and 26, at least 2 touchdowns in his last 3 weeks, 3 interceptions against the Cardinals. But still, he's showing now he's starting to complete at a high clip, especially getting a lot of these plays to turn it, or a lot, when I say a lot, 2 touchdowns for a quarterback, pretty decent, especially for a guy like T-Law who did not start the year off like that. So, I expect he's going to carry this momentum still into a Jets team that's just struggling, and plenty of chances to me that he's going to see this ball, plenty of chances to throw it, with the Jets really not going to have too much success offensively.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a Jags defense that allows the fewest rushing yards per game. They've been just as dominant as T-Law has been. And with the QB carousel and it being Breece Hall, I don't have too much love there, but I do have love on the other side. I mean, Travis Etienne, first round of fantasy playoffs are probably most teams. Best of luck to all of those out there as well. But this is a matchup where if you have if you're contemplating like Etienne or Rico Dowdle, I think this is a pretty safe Etienne play here. Because the Jets aren't pretty, and if it's a 13.5 spread, I expect there to be a decent amount of carries for ETN.
I'm going with the Jet, so take it with a grain of salt here. But I'm leaning towards the tight end, Mason Taylor. Talked about him before on this podcast. I'm going with him. Jacksonville gives up the most points in fantasy to tight ends. I know Brady Cook is starting at quarterback, so that may impact it. But I mean, regardless, if Mason Taylor's going to get open, I mean, I see the first starting QB hitting his tight end a good amount if he's going to be open. But mostly that pick's just based off of fantasy statistics.
One thing we didn't decipher before the podcast was a poop game of the week. Which, there's a lot of crazy spreads. I've got a couple nominees. I don't know if you guys have any ideas, but
interestingly enough, I don't think this is one of them.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I don't think it's gonna be our next discussion point. I would almost say my pick of the week.
Fair enough.
Keep it suspenseful.
Okay.
I'm seeing one down the line that I would probably call the poop game of the week, but let's keep it
I am
rolling.
as well.
What?
I think we're
Well,
all looking at the same one.
which one is that?
Got it.
We're not gonna
It's
spoil it.
yeah, I was gonna say
Then
I guess
keep no. If you guys are both in agreement here, then press the button when you guys think it. I'll be with the audience here.
okay.
All right.
All right.
So with that being said,
Keep going then.
congratulations, Cleveland. You are not the poop game of the week this week. Browns traveling to the Bears. Chicago -7.5. We're gonna see some cold weather, temperature of 12, and I know winds of 13. I know they're saying that like the feels is probably gonna be in the negatives. An over under of 38.5. That's exciting. And a Bears team that I said last week they're gonna come back to reality. And I'm sorry, Nick, but Josh Jacobs kind of led the Packers to that game. And at the same time,
Yeah.
you have a Cleveland team that was favored probably by the most they've seen all year, and a defense that's been incredibly dominant. And you let Cam Ward have his best professional game in the NFL. And shout out Shadur, crazy good game as well. Give credit where credit's due. One thing I found interesting about this game, or about the Bears specifically, is about Caleb Williams. So in his 2 seasons, he is the second most sacked quarterback, number 1 being Geno Smith. When he is sacked 2 or less times, the Bears are 11-6. When he is sacked 3 or more times, they're 3-10. But the O-line has been right there with him. Joe Thuney's been graded as the 7th best pass block lineman, according to PFF. And he's not allowed to sack this year. Looking at the spreadsheet, all of us here on Chicago, were there any worries?
I think there's definitely worries as opposed to what can the Browns defense do against it. Like we said it in like our guess the quarterback segment. Like Caleb Williams is not like an efficient quarterback. Like he will make plays that are needed in the time. Like he's a guy who will show up when it matters. But like you look at his completion percentages, he's like sometimes not even at 50 or just above 50. And for a quarterback going against a very good defense in Cleveland, like. I definitely see this game could be a little bit closer, but I just cannot go with the Browns offense to be better than what at least the Bears have showed so far. So there's definitely worries for me there, but the Bears just barely lost that game. And also, if Caleb made the right read to DJ Moore last week, that game's going overtime, and who knows what happens there. So I think that this offense has been better than I think I've ever given it credit for. But there were worries looking at this.
For me, no. Only because this Browns rushing defense is ranked 2nd in the league, and yet they allowed Tony Pollard season high in carries last week with 25. They did not look great guarding the run last week against a bad Titans team. And this Bears team has shown that they can run the football down your throat. I mean, they had over 200 rushing yards against a solid Eagles defense. Last week, they looked pretty good rushing the ball, too. And I know that was a tough loss to Caleb Williams' pick at the very end of the game. That was a heartbreaker. But they were in it fully. That defense actually looked pretty solid. I mean, you're not going to be able to stop Josh Jacobs once he gets going, but they were able to contain Jordan Love a good amount. They were in that game. I don't see this Browns defense being able to stop this Chicago rushing offense. If they weren't able to limit Tony Pollard, I don't see them being able to limit either Monangai or Swift.
Yeah. I mean, I think in this scenario, especially with the colder weather and the Chicago defense with Jalen Johnson, they have played a little bit better. So I think this is going to be a scary game for Shadur, and I think that's going to be a good day for Chicago. But my player to watch for this game is going to be just how Nick explained it. Both he and I riding DeAndre Swift this week. The run defense for Cleveland was not great last week. I mean, yeah, Pollard had a couple breakaways. But I think at 7, it's kind of similar to my ETN pick. 7.5 point spread. You're probably going to get a decent amount of opportunities in the backfield, and it better be Swift instead of Monangai.
Yeah, I agree. And also for me, too, the low total at 38.5, I just feel like if they're not going to be passing, it's going to be a lot of handoffs, and they've been rotating between the two, so both of them are going to get a good amount of carries.
And the wind.
In the wind.
the wind is carrying the ball right to DJ Moore. That's where I'm going with my player to watch
That
this
was good.
week. And also something I'm monitoring is Dunze has been limited, and there's even mention that he may or may not play. And ultimately, I think DJ Moore still being on that depth chart as the wide receiver one, like the guy is a boomer bust every week, and if Odunze doesn't play, I think it obviously draws more targets to him. Also, maybe to lift the burden, but I kind of just like DJ Moore's capability to possibly have a better week. So, to be honest, either of these two go off, but if Odunze is out, I like DJ Moore.
Got another divisional matchup here. We have the Ravens at the Bengals. Bengals plus 2.5, a total of 52.5. And a Ravens team that shit the bed last week against Pittsburgh. They had their opportunities. Yeah, and from my opinion, seeing Lamar play, I mean, you're not seeing him be as aggressive with his legs. It definitely still looks like there is that lingering injury, and it's costing them. Between that, Isaiah Likely having some unfortunate hand placement, they've had some setbacks. And meanwhile, you look at a Bengals offense that went into Buffalo in a snowy game, and you saw both teams just airing it out. And since he didn't win the game, but they covered the spread. Shout out Nick there on Bengals last week. And possibly shout out Nick again. Well, I hope not, but both Brooklyn and I are on Baltimore. Nick, you see Cincinnati repeating what they did on Thanksgiving against the Ravens?
I do. I think this offense is just way too good. And, a lot of the credit does go to Joe Burrow, but even before Joe Burrow, I mean, they were still cooking. They had multiple games, 30-plus points scored, 40-plus points scored, and I understand that it's because the defense is so bad that they have to keep up. But this is a struggling Ravens offense. I don't really care what the lines say. I know Lamar is Lamar, and he's going to do Lamar things, but like you mentioned already, he hasn't been aggressive. The injury's there. And I know the Cincinnati team defensively is pretty bad, but this is kind of the perfect opportunity to take advantage of that. And if this offense can cook, I know T. Higgins is in concussion protocol again, which kind of hurts. But when you have Jamar Chase on your team, then even though he's kind of been quiet the last few weeks, hasn't really found the end zone. I don't think that matters. Joe Burrow, though, in his last 2 starts, 72 points scored. And, I mean, those 2 crucial picks in that Buffalo game, yeah, that was rough. But you don't throw those. That's a completely different game. So I like Cincinnati revenge win at home this week.
I mean, it's hard to argue against the offense that we just saw from the Bengals last week, but I keep on waiting for the Ravens to show who they were supposed to be.
Let the wings out. Soar.
No, they're not soaring anytime soon, but
they will this week.
They could save their season. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that overall, like it's probably a better defense than even though like it's so hit or miss with the Ravens. I just like them more than the Bengals, especially with Lamar if he could use his legs. Money line also screaming at -145 or sorry -140 to me that. I'm not gonna say heavy favorites, but it's much more lenient towards Baltimore. And if it's a spread this narrow, again, I typically like to just lean towards the favorite side.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. I think Baltimore, I don't think there's a world where they lose twice to Cincinnati. Cincinnati is 29th in sacks per game. But Baltimore right there at 30th. But you look at the 2 O-lines, I like Baltimore's O-line a little bit more. Still 3rd in rushing yards per game, even though the last few weeks it hasn't been the greatest. And Lamar straight up against Joe Burrow is 6-2. 4-4 against the spread, but for the spread this narrow, unless we're seeing a 2-point win, it's most likely you're gonna win, you're gonna cover. So yeah, I think Baltimore doesn't lose both against Cincinnati here. I think my player to watch is going to be another tight end from Baltimore. I'm taking Mark Andrews. Baltimore, just like Tampa, I think Baltimore is either number 1 or number 2 in fantasy points allowed to the tight end position. Kincaid, I think, who snuck into the end zone last week as well. So there are definitely holes for this team. So I like Mandrews here to have better hands than Isaiah Likely.
I'm going with Jamar Chase. As I mentioned before, T. Higgins concussion protocol. In my opinion, last time Ravens played Bengals fantasy playoffs, Jamar Chase had 50 points. So I'm not saying it's going to happen again, but I do see the Burrow-Chase connection definitely happening this game. Home game, high total, division game. Yeah, if you got Chase, automatic start, obviously. But my player to
I'm
watch.
actually sitting Jamar Chase this week.
Like any sane man, he's actually he wants to lose out. He needs the number 1 pick in a dynasty league or something.
Yeah.
I am gonna go with a Bengal as well. You guys both drinking water at the same time. That was cool. I am
Gotta
gonna go
hydrate.
with a Bengal as well. I'm going with Chase Brown. Kind of pissed me off last week. I did have him in a lay for his rushing yards. Not betting against my own team, but considering he's a running back against the Bills, I was like, hey. The Bills decided to play actual defense against the run for whatever reason, but still had a day. He got in there for a rushing touchdown. I believe it was like 2-yard rush, and he also got a receiving touchdown as well. Versatile back right there. Should Jamar be limited and with T Higgins out, he just draws a little bit more attention there. Look to him to keep on having to me an impressive comeback from what we saw Chase Brown start out as. But other than that, yeah, that's my player to watch.
Like it.
And move into our next matchup here.
We got a pick of the week.
I tried not to talk over it. But yeah, take the floor.
No, it's okay. All right. Pick of the week time. A lot of people are probably excited to hear this at this rate. We're taking Houston -10 over Arizona. Houston at home. I'm a big fan of this Texans
When
team
did it go to
the last
10?
few-
Sorry to cut you off, but
I think today. I think it went up today.
It is actually currently 9.5. So you're.
Oh,
give yourself
sorry.
that
-9.5.
half point.
Oh, my bad.
It's
I
even better
like
for
9.5
you.
better. I know. I like 9.5 better. Sorry. I'm a big fan of this Houston Texans team. I think as good as this Jacksonville team is, this division's wide open, especially with Daniel Jones going out now. When you take a look at this Texans team, number 1 ranked overall defense according to PFF, they've won their last 5 games, 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. They have better division records over the Jags and the Colts. So basically, at this point, they're just playing to win out, and if they do, they can have a division lead. Defensively, they've allowed 33% of third down conversions on defense. That's the 3rd best in the league. These stats, to me, were also insane. 4th best graded run defense at a 77th, 2nd graded in pass rush, and graded 6th in coverage. So this team defensively, thank you, is good.
Wait, that went on the mic?
Yeah, that went on the mic. Appreciate that.
Loves your pick, Nick.
Insane.
You got me so excited. The air is just
on the mic.
the air is just
Right.
exiting my system because I'm so
Right,
excited. You're
right.
taking my breath away.
And then looking at the Arizona side of the ball, this is a team we've talked about very highly actually on this podcast, especially for the 3-10 record that they have, especially with Jacoby Brissett under center. But 6-7 against the spread this season after a loss. They're 4-5. Ugly loss to the Rams last week, and they were going up against a defense that wasn't even highly as graded against this Texans defense. So God only knows what's going to happen. Brissett has a 64.8 QB rating under pressure. They're on a 5-game losing streak, 1-4 against the spread, -18 EPA total, which is 9th worst in the league.
Sorry, Nico just can't stop
Nico can't contain his laughter. This team run blocking, it's okay. As we know, Cardinals run game not there. 26th graded in run blocking, bottom 5 in the NFL, and pass blocking is not there either. They're bottom 10 in pass blocking. So we know that the Cardinals, they're gonna have to air it out. Brissett's had 40+ passing attempts in the last few starts that he's had. I just think this Texans defense is way too good, man. And especially coming off a 30-point loss to the Rams, I see Houston. And Houston's on a heater. So I like them to cover -9.5, especially at home. So that's after the interruptions. That's my pick of the week.
I forget. I have to mute 2 buttons when I burp, and I muted one.
Yeah,
But yeah, spreadsheet wise, we're all in the Texans here. I mean, yeah, they ruined my pick of the week last week. The defense is just they're just too unstoppable. I mean, even with the Davis Mills, they were able to take care of business here. And a Cardinals team that has been good at covering against the spread with Brissett under the helm, but there's just not enough O line help that I think Arizona can provide here. Um, I do think with that all being said, my pick of the week is going to be Woody Marks, as with Nick. Arizona, yeah, they're gonna have to sling it a decent amount, but with a this large of a line at 9.5 with a 42-point total, it doesn't leave too much wiggle room for Arizona really to do well. So if the script goes the way it should, it's either gonna be Woody Marks rushing it in or some screw it Nico Collins down there somewhere type of ball. But yeah, I'm with
Collins.
I'm with Woody here.
I think he's the only receiver on this team. I'm going with Jaden Higgins. He's a guy who's kind of started to emerge in that Texans offense as a potential deep bomb guy. Also, not as much as a deep bomb guy, but also like a guy who he's gotten a lot of targets, especially increased target share since week 10. And to me, going against the team like Arizona, where Nico Collins is obviously going to be the focus of that defense. You throw Jaden Higgins in there, possibly do with those targets to make something out of it. I was going to talk about liking Nick's pick, but I don't think I got anything else to say. He was like number one best defense according to PFF. I'm like, I think from what I've watched, you could have just told me that without the blind stats. I would have believed it anyway.
The stats for them are just unreal. They're crazy.
Just watching them play. When you watch them play defense, you have to look at that game and be like, that's got to be the best defense in the
Just
league.
look at what they did. Look at what they did to Mahomes, an MVP candidate. 3 interceptions. Like, that offense, for as highly ranked as they are, they look terrible.
I mean, Nico's got a bone to pick with the Chiefs. We're about to talk about them in a moment. But
yeah, I was just gonna say it's a good segue into Chargers at Chiefs -4.5 on the Chiefs. 41.5 point total. So doesn't seem like it's gonna be that high scoring, which is kind of a shock there. But in every single one of these games, I feel like I've had to make an excuse. Like last week, the Chiefs were very much in it. You talk about a missed field goal to tie, that would have tied the game going to second half. You saw some critical drops, and to that same point, the Chiefs' defense against Houston didn't play terribly. They would get 2 stops, and then Houston would be putting in like a 3rd and 12. They converted a 3rd and 17, but they had at least 3 conversions of 3rd and long, which that goes one opposite way. You're turning a punt instead of a new set of downs. So I think Mahomes has just had to do everything. I mean, before we started recording, Nick was talking about the run efficiency of the Chiefs, and it's so great. And then you look at the running back room, and you're like, what? It's Mahomes. He's doing it with his legs. So even after burning me 3 consecutive weeks, not hitting the spread in 4 straight, burning Brooklyn a week before that, we've picked the Chiefs 4 weeks in a row. There's no pick of the week on the Chiefs this week. But I am still taking Kansas City to cover. I just don't see a world where Mahomes misses the playoffs. As bad as the roster is played, this is a good opportunity against a Chargers team that went out and they beat Philly as underdogs, and Chargers' schedule isn't easy going forward, and this is just another tough matchup to go against. And the Chiefs are at home, and when looking at it, they are 0-7. I know I mentioned this last week, but 0-7 in 1-score games. Last year they were undefeated. Just shows how quick things can change. I don't like the sass on your face, Brooklyn. Why are you looking at the guy that hates the Chargers every week goes into this podcast shitting on the Chargers, and now all of a sudden they're your BFFs?
No, but did you just see what they did to the reigning Super Bowl champion quarterback, Jalen Hurts? The guy who's been notorious for having good ball security throughout this year. 240 yards for fucking what? He threw 4 picks.
Yeah.
And that's a Chargers defense that was all over the place that game. When I say in a good way, they were everywhere. AJ Brown somehow got 100 yards on 13 targets, by the way. That's
and
how many drops that is.
He had a touchdown get called back. He had a deep bomb that got dropped. He had the interception at the end of the game that was a target to him. I don't know. It was a bad game for Hurts, but I don't.
It was weird. As every single time I have watched the Chargers, like me actually watching them, is when they don't perform. But when I watched them this past Monday, that was the defense I'd always predicted to see week by week. And seeing how they like just dismantled Hurts again, who's been praised for just not making the stupidest reads, like for a Chiefs offense that's just been so wishy-washy for the last 4 weeks. Like I can't go for the Chiefs in this one. I think the Chargers coming off a huge game with the healthier Herbert gets, the more of himself he gets back with his ability to scramble, combined with if that defense ever plays like that again against Kansas City, I don't think they clear a spread like that. And like your notes even say, they're 0-7 against the spread in one-score games this year. And a lot of momentum going for the Chargers after that win. And
Short rest.
I don't think that.
Sorry, keep going. I thought you were done.
No, I just don't think that the Chiefs just have any mojo right now. Like that's been a team that week by week has been favored and doesn't do anything with it. Granted, this past week was rough. I did see a bunch of those drop Rashi Rice, man.
Not great.
That
Not
was
great
rough.
for my boy. But talking about a Chiefs team that also facing teams on short rest. Those teams are 8-15 against the spread. One of those short rest games being the Cowboys game, but still under 500. Still anytime I know this year for LeBron he's taken a little. The age is catching up to him a decent amount. But you look back at say 20 post Lakers ring LeBron. You saw the Lakers at plus value. You're not. You look for a second. You look and they're favored, but the majority of tickets are on the Chargers, showing that a lot of people don't believe in the Chiefs this year. And like I said before, I'm very comfortable fading the public. But with that being said, too, I know Brooklyn was on the Chargers, but Nick, so are you. And anything he said or anything he didn't say that you want to bring up?
I just kind of agree with the whole Herbert aspect of it. I mean, Monday night, even with the hand injury, he had no problem rushing out of the pocket like he's been doing all season. The offensive line for the Chargers does concern me, but then again, they just went up against a Eagles defense. I know they didn't have Jalen Carter, and I know the Chiefs with Chris Jones, that's going to be a huge factor for him. It definitely scares me, but I like this Chargers offense a little bit better. Even with Hampton back, Vidal still pivotal in this offense. Last week, pretty sure he had over 100 scrimmage yards. I don't know the exact stat. Yeah. I just like the dynamic offense of this Chargers team a little bit more than KC, only just because it hasn't worked for KC in the last month. Sorry, Nico, but
No,
especially
you're not
with the
breaking my
division
heart.
game. Especially with the division game, I know these teams played week 1. So it's been almost 4 months since these two teams have faced each other again. So it's been a little while. But with the momentum that LAC has and with them, trying to win a division that hasn't been in reach for them in numbers of years, I like the Chargers. I like them at plus 4.5. If it was any lower, I would maybe lean KC. But over a field goal, I like LA.
Justin Herbert is 2-9 against against Patrick Mahomes. Hopefully, it becomes 2-10. And my player
to stiff arm a guy with the cast on.
What was that?
He tried to stiff arm a guy with his cast hand.
He's a dog.
Which is
that O-line is
nuts.
free. That's another thing you guys didn't talk about. I mean,
Right, but he broke the
What
pocket.
are you talking about? I said that O-line concerns me.
it should more than
It
concern
absolutely
you.
What, you too busy thinking about your fucking burp?
No, I'm past
Damn.
it.
I'm not the guy that's picking the same team in a month in a row.
Hey, guy.
A month in a row is actually so nuts.
Jesus Christ.
And you know what? I'm gonna defend it still. Every single game, it's been this close. It's been this close. And with that, here's where the mojo went wrong. I think I went on a little bit of a trend of in Chiefs games not picking Rashee Rice as the player to watch, and then we started to see things kind of crumble. So that's why my player to watch is going to be Rashee. He had some big drops last week, so didn't look great on your fantasy stat lines, but there's potential for a solid 12 points off the board there. And we've seen it where if the Chiefs are winning. If they do win, it's with Rice having a good game.
He took such a big hit. that replay lives in my head from the first time. I was like, whoa. Well, I'm gonna go lean on Omarion Hampton here. Of course that Chiefs D line a little bit more threatening right now than the Eagles had last week, but getting him back here, I think he had a touchdown in the first quarter. Big bounce back from him as they continue just to ease him back in. I think he's going to see a lot more volume there, especially as that Chargers like offense passing wise did not look good. I'm not saying that that's deterring me from taking their spread here. I think that defense is definitely capable of keeping them in a game. But as Omar and Hampton eases back in and Herbert gets a little bit more of some vulnerability back in that hand, or not vulnerability, but he gets that hand back a little bit more. I think that offense is just going to start to gradually begin to pick up a little bit more.
I'm taking a Charger. I'm going with Mr. Keenan Allen. Kind of an interesting pick. Kind of been a little bit quiet, but first time these teams faced, especially with Ladd and Quentin Johnston, he led the receiving room in targets. He had 10 targets, 7 catches for 68 yards, and he found the end zone. I like this basically off of matchups. I think Quentin and Ladd are going to be locked down pretty tight. I think Herbert is going to rely on Keenan in the slot, try to get open. And worked week 1. Again, it's been numbers of weeks since these teams played, but I like it matchup-wise, going with Keenan.
If there was any time to burp, Nick, now would be the time.
Yeah? Well, instead, I'll do this for you.
We got a pick of the week.
Nico, how can you pick the Eagles at minus 11.5? Oh, see, at least we got a burp in there. At least you got something. How could you pick the Eagles at minus 11.5 after they just lost to the Chargers? Or well, they pushed the spread, to be fair. But after all of that, how do I pick them? My answer, it's the Raiders. It's Geno Smith, the most sacked quarterback. 14 interceptions, Geno Smith. Out of the 44 quarterbacks that are applicable in adjusted EPA per play, Geno Smith ranks 40th. An O-line that sucks. Nick Sirianni has never lost 4 games in a row. And you're probably thinking too, I'm not worried about them not losing the game. It's a 12-point spread. How do they cover that? Just like what we talked about in the last matchup against the Chargers. The ball to A.J. Brown was almost there. Almost there. And Hurts, 30-5 straight up at home. I think this is just, Philly, we've shit on Philly every week. And I think that this is just like a very obvious like school ground, like jock versus like the little nerdy kid, and he's stealing that lunch money. This is just going to be a rout. 38.5 point over under. I realistically think that the Raiders don't score more than 10 points.
It can
So
be possible.
you're saying that you would take the under on their team total right now?
Let me you guys can explain why you also like Philly while I look at their team total currently.
I mean, you kind of summed it up. It's the fucking Raiders. I mean, the Raiders are ass. This Philly team, really tough loss that we just talked about Monday night. I was dead on with my player to watch, Saquon Barkley, 50-yard touchdown. He's back in his rhythm, and they're going up against a defense that sucks in the pass, in the run. This is tush-push central if they get on the 1-yard line. I see it. It's kind of hard not to love Philly here. I mean, the Raiders are it's a shit show, man. It's bad.
I got literally zero other. It would just be rebuttaling everything that was just said. I mean, genuinely, like, I know I just shit on Jalen Hurts, and I'm also going to kind of go for him a little bit in just a moment. But, the Raiders have been able to get absolutely nothing going. If it isn't Bowers doing something with which, he's had an injury all year, but even when he's come back, he hasn't been incredibly influential. God, that team does nothing week by week.
Do you guys want to guess
I don't know about Bowers. I don't know about Bowers not being influential only because he had like a 40-point week, like the second game he came back.
Right, but if you look at the results of the games from that point on, though, loss. Like,
oh no, I know, but I'm just saying, like, from fantasy wise, he's still producing. The team
Right.
sucks, but he's.
Can you guys guess the
total?
Raiders team total?
I'm gonna go 12.5.
I'll bump that up a little bit. 13.5.
12.5.
Whoa,
I didn't even look.
that's
I would take
gross
the
as fuck, dude. What the hell?
The under on 10.5 was plus 130. Check that
Oh
box.
Did you bet it?
I just placed it. I sent that in.
Oh my god.
My player to watch in this game is going to be Devonta Smith. Again, this is the script for me. The way that I'm seeing this is a Philly team that really just, you saw Jalen Hurts throw for 4 picks. Also had the first time that I've ever seen somebody throw a pick and fumble in the same play. Shout out Jalen Hurts there. That was a -4 for anybody that had him in fantasy. But I think this is just one of those that, the casual fan looks back after this week and is like, how do the Raiders or how do the Eagles look like such ass on Monday Night Football and then come out and just dominate against the Raiders? And I think it's just as easy as just looking at it at face value. This is a really good team against a really bad team.
Yep, I agree, and that's why I took a Raider. It is Bowers though. I mean, it's basically the only guy that can produce, and that's no disrespect to Genty, but there's just nothing on that offensive line that can help him. He's struggling back there, and regardless of how bad the offense has looked, Bowers has produced on fantasy because he's the only target getter, and he's the only one that's been able to get into the end zone for him. So, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm just going with Bowers.
Fair enough. And in a world where Jalen Hurts somehow listens to this podcast, I'm so sorry for just how horrible you played against the Chargers. This almost 240 yards of pure shit because you also fucked over my under on his passing yards and made absolutely nothing happen with those yards too. But that being said, you take those interceptions away, he'd only thrown 2 on the year. Granted, the Eagles have been struggling all in all. You get a game like this where it's against the Raiders where it's kind of like a no-stress sort of win, in my opinion. I think he feels a lot more comfortable, a lot less stressed, unless he's got Max Crosby in his face. But even then, this is a game that brings a lot less of, not importance, but the Chargers were a team going into it where your defense could be a big factor, and it absolutely was. Raiders, not so much, and he's going to get a lot of chances here to get back into the rhythm and see the field a ton. Granted that offense does nothing.
Yeah, do you know what, Jalen Hurts? Bring it in, guy. If you're listening to the podcast, bring it in. You deserve a hug. You deserve a hug.
I feel bad for him, man. The camera just panned on to him every single time he got off the field, and it's like, even when he was in college, it's a guy that you didn't necessarily root against. Especially when Tua came in the championship, and he carved his way out of that hole and made something for himself in Philly. And I don't know, I respect the guy, but horrible game.
There's one gripe I hold against Jalen Hurts, and do you know the meme when Vanderbilt had that big win, and they said, "Bama, you're next on the schedule." And then Hurts, he responds, they ask him in the media, and Hurts says, well, theoretically, they are next.
Yes.
Theoretically does not make sense in that sentence. Saying theoretically they are next is not correct. They quite literally are next in the schedule. For being a philosopher that he is, in college you could tell how it's progressed into the NFL, his storytelling ability. But that's my only gripe against Jalen Hurts. Just as one of his most famous internet memes is incorrect grammar.
Fair enough.
Press the button.
Well, hit it.
Thank God.
The poop game of the week.
Wait, what?
All right, so talking about my pick of the week.
Oh shit! I went down. I went down one. My bad.
We got a pick of the week.
So automatically, I think that means that you fade.
Because I was looking at the other game that we thought was gonna be game of the week, and I didn't read the other text. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I almost thought my pick of I thought my Eagles Raiders game might be poop game of the week. Now I'm even more confused who you guys are. saying.
I don't know what he's looking at then, because that's not what I was at.
Oh, well then that's interesting. All right, never mind.
Well, Nick, you have control of the poop here.
I do. So we'll just keep it a surprise.
Press the button again.
Okay, sorry.
We got a pick of the week.
Now my confidence is just ruined. This
Well,
cannot be a good
You
pick.
got that. I got a burp. Come on, it goes even.
I got a
alright?
burp.
Everyone's getting an interruption.
I got the
Sorry.
soundboard telling me that this is the poop game of the week. It's my pick.
Oh, I don't think it is.
Okay.
What's the pick, damn it?
We're gonna look at Green Bay versus Denver here, and I have a special liking now for anything that isn't the Broncos. Personally, every time I watch them, I begin to hate them more. But also, this is gonna lean over towards a Green Bay team that offensively, honestly, as a team, is more of just a well-rounded unit.
Show of hands real quick. Who here, raise your hand if you enjoy watching the Broncos play football. No hands went up if you're not looking at us visually. But now you can continue.
-2.5. I actually believe it moved down to -2, which, I mean, I think that really only helps me there. But -2.5 is what I originally had taken it at. It was currently what I have it staked at. But -2 works just as well. Looking at Green Bay, and actually no, let me start with Denver. Defensively, we know they're beasts, and at the same time, they also let up 27 or 26 points to the fucking Commanders, led by Mariota. Don't let that go away. And maybe Surtain is back and all, but offensively, that is a team that. Thanks for muting for that cough.
Did it mute?
It did.
Oh.
I just saw you press it right away.
You made me feel bad. I thought it went off
No, you're
again.
good. Offensively, that Broncos team has just been so incredibly inefficient. And I know, like, I was talking to Nico earlier about Bo Nix and how we shit on him a lot, but, stats-wise, he doesn't look horrible. But the more we look at it, he is just not a great quarterback to lead a drive. And that shows also in their red zone efficiency. 57%, while that's over half, not necessarily horrible by any means, but Nix also only has one passing touchdown in the last 3 games. So this has been a Broncos team. Yeah, take a look at that chart. That guy cannot throw past like 15 yards. Like
In Bo Nix's last game, 31 completions, and the farthest one through the air was 14 yards.
Yeah, literally, like the guy cannot air it out. And not just that, I wouldn't say that the Broncos necessarily have the strongest receiving room either. And now, with Dobbins out, it's really up to their defense and their run game to be something that could get it going, because offensively, the pass game isn't their thing. And going against a legitimate Green Bay defense right now, I think both these teams are within currently the top 5 overall defenses in the league at the moment. I think Green Bay is a much well-rounded overall unit. Now, Green Bay going against a spread within 4-1-ish, of course, being favored. It's currently 3-1 in that record. Also, EPA per play, they currently lead the league at 0.14. Also, going against, Denver's rushing attack, Green Bay ranks as the 9th best rushing defense. Biggest thing to me that really stuck out about this was Green Bay's red zone efficiency versus the Broncos was 68% for Green Bay. So they turned a hell of a lot more of those drives on average versus Denver into touchdowns. So to me, this game, defense is of course going to be a huge play for it. If the Broncos keep it close, it is only because of their defense. I think it's going to be relatively low scoring, but Green Bay is better offensively. Defense is definitely good enough to keep Bo Nix playing at what he's at. I think this is a close game, but I think the Packers easily clear this by a field goal. Now you can cough.
Thank you. You kind of spoke it perfectly. The only thing I can add is teams with a 70% win percentage or more at this point in the year, listed as an underdog in a game, are 54, 80, and 4 against the spread since 2003.
54, 8, and 4.
54, 80, and 4.
Oh, sorry, 80. Yeah.
And my player to watch, Pat Bryant, the second. Or actually, is anything you want to add, Nick? Sorry.
No, Brooklyn summed it up pretty well for me.
Yeah, I like Pat Bryant as much as I hate Bo Nix. We're seeing back-to-back games of around, 6 to 8 targets. I think he just continues to get fed more into this offense. You see it as a rookie wide receiver as the end of the season goes. That's where you see the production typically steep up a little bit more. And he's had a couple good opportunities at touchdowns the last couple weeks, and I think that there is going to be a decision here, or not a decision, but there is going to be a point in this game where he's going to have some type of large play.
I going here. No, I can't say I was really looking at any receiver for this game. Obviously, we know how efficient Denver's passing defense is. But I am gonna go for the big man, Luke Musgrave. To me, I think this is gonna be a game where the Packers get into the red zone, and it's kind of a give it to a safe target type of guy. And to me, Luke Musgrave, while he hasn't really been that much for the Packers as of recently, I think he could find a chance here to get a touchdown.
I'm with Brooklyn here, actually. I'm also running Luke Musgrave, and that's simply because we saw I mean, he's no Tucker Craft, but especially through that Green Bay offense, they do like to utilize their tight ends. So if there is a red zone opportunity and he's open, he's getting that target. So I like it.
Moving forward, no more picks of the week. My favorite matchup, I love whenever this pops up on the schedule, just because of the trade that happened through it. Talking about the Lions at the Rams. Rams favored minus 5.5. Highest total of the week, 55.5. Not with the Dallas Cowboys playing. That's always a surprise. A Detroit team that took care of business against Dallas on Thursday night, and a Rams team that continued to just do what the Rams do best, dominate. And this is also so tricky because I feel like through the pod I've been decently high on Detroit, but I couldn't do it here with the Rams. In fact, both Nick and I in agreement there, but Brooklyn taking Detroit. Detroit's offense has been great, but the Rams are just so well rounded. They're at home, and as surprising as, again, fading the public here, a lot of it's on Detroit at plus 5.5. You can argue Detroit has more to play for in this scenario, as they're, the playoff race in the NFC is a lot tighter, but same case for the Rams. I mean, that one seed we saw last week, the Bears were the number one, and with that loss, they got bumped down. So the bye is definitely still in play here, but I'm just taking the team that is more well-rounded everywhere.
I
Yeah.
am also.
I'm sorry.
Oh no,
I thought
if
it
you're
I
you're
thought it was talk that to me since I was the only one defending.
no. That's honestly fair. I was gonna say you're on Detroit, so you take it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I was going Detroit here for this whole reason of we saw what they just did to Dallas, of which that's been the hottest offense as of late. Equally though, the Rams have been hot as well. So it's kind of hard to really say that. I think that this is going to be a game that the Rams can clear by a touchdown, when I almost think it's going to be like a 3-point decision, but a very high scoring affair. So to me, that line was just a little too high. I honestly think the Rams will probably come out on top of this one. I just can't see it being past a touchdown.
I just think, to add on to Nico's point, this Rams team is so well solid. Matthew Stafford has been playing out of his mind. I mean, his former team's coming to town. I don't see how he's not motivated to throw at least 5 or 6 touchdowns against this team. I'm just saying, like, as a motivation.
I was
As
about
a
to say.
motivation. I'm not saying he's gonna do it. I'm just saying there's extra motivation for this team. Not only that, Seattle's right behind them in the standings. They're a really good football team too. So LA needs to keep winning if they want to take control of the NFC West. I see this more as a Dan Campbell, Sean McVay game. I think it's going to be a very interesting coached game. These two coaches have no problem going forward on 4th down, so it's going to be very entertaining to watch. But yeah, I like the Rams here. I just think they're so more well-rounded. Their defense is so good. 30-point win against Arizona that we already said last week, division game, but at home, best team in the league right now statistically. I'm liking the Rams.
Yeah, no
I
Brian
want to
Branch.
quickly add something
Oh,
here.
yes.
For the start, and it's not helping me, but it is something just interesting. Like we haven't talked about Indianapolis yet, but that game likely going to be a win for Seattle, which makes this even more kind of a must-win scenario for the Rams as well, but equally as important, I think, to both teams right now. So I think this is honestly the game of the week, in my opinion. If not, everyone has already probably considered that, but that's the thing I wanted to add in for this.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. I think this is going to be the most entertaining. Plus, again, the history, the Goff for Stafford trade so many years back. I love to see the rivalry come there. No Brian Branch for the rest of the year either. That's a big loss for the Lions. Could play a factor here. That's why I do think the Rams take it out. But I do think this is going to be a good fantasy game for Jared Goff. Most likely playing from behind, most likely going to have to sling it. And again, especially with how it went out, like Jared Goff drafted as the second overall quarterback, and gets traded away just for another quarterback. There's I feel like anytime Goff plays the Rams, there is a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. So not really analytics there, but I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed if I was Goff.
I agree. That's why I'm riding with them too. Not to mention you were the highest scoring offense when you were down there in LA too. So it's a lot. There's a lot that he has coming into this game to prove. That's for sure.
I'm gonna go with a Ram here. Gonna go with Blake Corum, and then you might be thinking like, well, I mean, we all know he had a pretty decent week last week, but like he's not the RB1. But look at a lot of reports. The Rams coaches staff has expressed that they want to keep Kyron and Blake fairly involved, not equally at all, but keep Blake involved, who's averaging at least 5.5 yards a carry right now, which is no joke at all. For him to get some of these valuable touches and score 2 touchdowns last week, maybe a guy to take some of the load off of Kyron there. And as much as I don't need that because I have Kyron in the league that I need him in. Ultimately, something to keep an eye on. And punching 2 in last week definitely shows that you could have some higher utilization going forward.
Into Sunday Night Football, play that music. We're all waiting for Sunday night. There actually isn't.
No,
Yeah.
no one
I can't
is.
wait to work
No
on
one ever
Monday.
is.
Yes.
No
Yes.
one ever waits for Sunday night. If you do, you're a fucking madman.
I really dislike. Well, you wait
hate your
for
life.
after like 6:30. Once the games are wrapped up for the 4 o'clocks, then you're just like sitting there. I'm kind of itching a little bit for Sunday Night Football.
JJ McCarthy
No.
gets 2
No, I'm
primetime
not.
games. Like it's just sickening.
Yeah,
Sickening.
we're seeing 9 in the Vikings head to Dallas. Dallas favorite at -5.5. A total of 47.5, and a Dallas team that against the spread as underdogs they were 5-2, 2-4 as favorites this year. But the Cowboys a little bit more extra rested, and Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings in prime time is 1-7 straight up. So some interesting notes there. Brooklyn and I on Dallas, Nick on the Vikings. My script for this is just a Dallas team that, yeah, the Vikings defense has been really good with Brian Flores, but this Dallas offense it's just been so scary. And yeah, there have been some flashes where they haven't necessarily gone the full game with that offensive production, but I don't think that 9 in this Vikings team that has a poor running game, a receiving group that is played bad, also due to the quarterback play. I just can't take JJ McCarthy to go into Dallas and get the win.
I'm with Minnesota because you say that, but this is a team that just shut out Washington last week and put up 31 points unanswered. I get it was against the last ranked defense in the league, but Dallas isn't right behind, and Dallas isn't that far off. I know their offense makes up for their lack of defense, but if I'm JJ McCarthy, I'm feeling a little more content going into this game, knowing that this defense has had their issues all year long, and it's something that we've been talking about all year long. And Minnesota's defense has kept them in games when they shouldn't have. And we've talked about it before when JJ McCarthy has been slacking. This defense finds a way to keep them in. As good as this Dallas offense is, we've seen it before where they can be disrupted on defense. And when their tempo gets stopped, it's hard for them to get going. CD had some crucial drops a few weeks ago. I don't see that happening again, but I think this defense definitely needs to get a little more credit than it deserves, especially against this offense. They looked really good last week. So I like them, at least holding down the fight. I know it's in Dallas, but I like them covering 5.5.
Vikings, man. I can't root against Dallas with how hot of a tear that their offense has been on. And I know CD getting a concussion last week is something to absolutely monitor, but in terms of just how much they can go tit for tat with scoring, I think it's just going to completely outpace what the Vikings are able to do. I know they saw that against a bad Commanders defense, but that Commanders offense overall just has you can't even compare that to what the Cowboys are able to do. So for me, I just think the Vikings are too hot and cold right now for me to really rely on them to have that type of game week by week, and the Cowboys have shown that they do that every week. It's just a matter of if their defense shows up at the same time.
Yeah, no. We've talked about how the Dallas defense has made some strides since the trade deadline with the acquisitions that they've made. And I'm not sold on McCarthy after just one good game because you know the script all year. You know the meme of him in the locker room.
Isn't
I've
this the
just
Dallas
seen
team
it.
that lost to Carolina though? To Bryce Young, Carolina Panthers. No.
Did the Rams just also lose to Carolina?
Yeah, but
There
just saying.
by that math, the Rams and the Cowboys are the same team.
But this offense is so good they couldn't score on the Carolina Panthers. I'm just saying.
I take a lot of crap at just like the whole offense of Minnesota, but I don't think that we've seen the two worst games of Justin Jefferson's career, and I think that this is a good bounce back opportunity. Because again, I think that kind of the same thing that I said last week with the Lions. Um, the Dallas defense has made some new additions. They have beefed up the D line, but the secondary is still that bad secondary, and this is a good opportunity for Jefferson to eat, and he honestly deserves it. It's been there's no way that he goes 3 straight weeks with just shit performances.
I'm on Jettas
Yeah.
too. And sorry, I didn't
No,
mean to
you're
cut
good.
you off.
No, you're good.
Trayvon Diggs limited. I know he's getting some practice reps, but even then, I don't really think it matters. He's more of a zone coverage guy than man to man, and this is the game for Justin Jefferson to have a bounce back week, especially against this defense. So
Yeah, I absolutely feel horrible for Jettas because God, I mean that's such good talent just going to waste right now because of so many offensive struggles that are just not his fault. But subsequently, I'm gonna go with George Pickens here. Something to monitor right now is if CD is gonna be playing come Sunday night, and if not, I know there was a lot worried about like his effort level. I don't know if you guys saw him going at Richard Sherman for his comments after the game.
yeah,
How
yeah.
it
It's just
started off so
Crazy.
formally and like adult, and he just starts ripping him a new one.
it's so George Pickens coded.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he of course got fined for it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But that aside, you put that one game away, like he's still that guy that you can absolutely rely on to put up wide receiver one numbers. And you throw him against Minnesota right now. Is this he's a dog. Like he's a guy who will always try to couple plays aside in that Detroit game try to get his. So I look for him, especially if CD is out, to have one of those weeks that we saw when he was the not primary option. But yeah.
And Monday Night Football, Dolphins at the Steelers. Steelers -3. Slight chance of some snow. Total of 42.5. Achan not cleared to play just yet, which could be big. I mean, granted, the Dolphins do have some decent running backs behind him, but he has been the primary part of that full offense. Tua's a dog in prime time, 1-8 straight up. But at the same time, the Dolphins are winners of 5 of their last 6. And something really crazy about the Steelers, since 2022, they are 35-0 straight up and 34-1 against the spread on in games that they do win. So if the Steelers do win this game, there's a good chance that they're covering. And even with the cold weather, I'm still on Miami, and it's actually at 3.5. Excuse me. I think this Miami offense has been a lot more explosive, but at the same time, the D line's actually done really well. And I don't think this is a good matchup for Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, and that's kind of been the bread and butter of this Pittsburgh offense is living through the backfield. So for me, I think this is a Miami team that kind of beats the odds and gets a win in the cold.
I took Pittsburgh, and I know how you're talking about that Miami D line, but if you go looking at that Pittsburgh D line, they got Cam Hayward and T.J. Watt. And especially if Achan does end up getting ruled out, that's going to make a big difference for this Miami offense. Pittsburgh's got something to play for. We've talked about divisions a lot. We're in week 15 now. So, I mean, playoffs are right around the corner. These games are going to be crucial. Pittsburgh is in the lead in their division. They have the chance to win the whole thing. This is Aaron Rodgers' last season. He's playing with a fractured hand. I don't see how this team isn't motivated to win this division. Mike Tomlin in prime time. I mean, at a 42.5 on total, I could see -3. I think this Pittsburgh defense is going to clutch up, especially at home. We've seen Tua struggle against really good defenses, especially passing. I could see that happening here. So I like Pittsburgh.
I'm not gonna say you're wrong for Cam Hayward and T.J. Watt, but this is a Steelers defensive line that the last 2 weeks has let up 466 straight rushing yards. Should HN play, I don't think that's going to be too much of a different scenario there in terms of how efficient that rush game will be. Miami has put up 160 plus rushing yards in the last 4 games. If HN is good to go, and if Tua forgets that he's not in Hawaii and that you still got to like put some heat on that ball when it's cold. Like, I think that it's going to be a lot to monitor for just the Steelers defense and not just that, that D line. I can't get that. Like that number is not easy to just like put to the side. 466 rushing yards in the last 2 weeks, Buffalo game. And, even though they beat the Ravens still lit them up on the ground. Something to monitor, man. And even with HN out, I think, just that there's a lot of holes to patch up there.
Yeah, no, my player to watch is gonna be on Miami. It's gonna be Jalen Waddle. Nothing too electric, but with this win streak that the Dolphins have been on, he's been a decent focal point of it. I mean, granted, the wide receiver room isn't too pretty, but especially if Achan's questionable, whether it's Jalen Wright or Ollie Gordon taking carries, I think that Jalen Waddle is still gonna get a decent amount of targets, and he should live up to those.
Nick, I will let you take this. Or sorry, you got. Oh yeah, you got Jalen Waddle. Sorry, I thought you were on me earlier. No, you got Nick.
I'm also on a Dolphin. I actually am on Ollie Gordon. I know Jalen Wright was getting a lot of the carries after HM was ruled out last week. Needless to say, though, Ollie Gordon was a big goal line guy even when HM was healthy at the beginning of the season. Very solid rookie. They like to utilize him a lot. If HN gets ruled out, I see him getting a lot of carries, especially regardless of the situation. But good plug and play guy. If he's available, I would pick him up just in case. But I like Ollie Gordon.
Yeah, and then my player to watch this week for this game is gonna be DK, a name that we kind of threw around a lot this year. But as you may have known, like just fantasy wise, he just hasn't been anything that you can rely on. But last week, a 21-point performance. I know he's had some stomach pains, of which he actually had to go to the hospital for that. But from all the reports I've seen, so far, nothing that's gonna jeopardize his availability for this week. So as long as he's healthy this week, going against a Miami defense that has always week by week here gotten just torn up for how inconsistent they are, DK's bound to have another one of those weeks that we've been expecting out of him.
Now to one of my favorite new installments, just our rapid fire round. So we're not here for 2 hours. Try to do my
I get into my
best.
game of the week sound.
Yeah, I'm curious to know which. So like, I don't know if you're gonna just randomly throw a poop in here when I'm trying to rapid fire, but I'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I basically will.
My best Chris
Oh,
Berman
Brooklyn's
impression.
doing it.
Oh, he's
I can do it for this one.
So yeah, let me
Alright.
let me jump into this. We got 4 games, rapid fire. Talk about these. I'm gonna go starting now. We got Washington at the Giants -2.5. Daniels ruled out, and that's gonna be Marcus Mariota play. Last 3 times that they've played, Washington 3-0 against the spread. I like Washington in this spot as underdogs on the road. Moving forward, and also shout out, I think my player to watch, Theo Johnson, is setting records for sophomore tight ends, and he's Dart's go-to guy. So if they are going to throw, it's going to be to him. Moving on, we've got Indiana at Seattle -13.5. We most likely will be getting Phillip Rivers. That's what the sports books are projecting. 44-year-old man off the couch, 13.5 spread against the best defense in the league. I can't overthink it. I'm taking the Seahawks. Flying over, we're going to Tennessee at San Francisco. Another 12.5-point spread in favor of the 49ers. I'm going to take the 49ers in this scenario. Why? I apologize to Titans fans, but it might have been fake. I still can't trust them. Kyle Shanahan against an interim head coach. I can't do it. Moving forward, we got Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints.
The poop game of the week.
Roll that fart sound, baby. That's the poop game of the week. 40.5 total.
Ah.
It's going to be ugly. Still no Kamara, it looks like, for the Saints. But Shuck has showed that he can do it. And I think this Carolina team has sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. This is going to be shit. I like Saints +2.5. And I forgot players to watch in that game as well. I took Devon Vele because he is still getting the targets but not doing so much with them.
Yeah, you made that look easy.
Yeah. Do you want me to go?
I can get mine out of the way real quick, because then I'll just.
That was not my poop game of the week.
Wow, there's
Yeah, what was yours?
Mine was Washington Giants.
Oh, that is a good one.
that's what I thought.
That's why I clicked the sound after Nico's, because I completely forgot because I didn't go 2 down.
Well, for me, it also
That's
comes out like if you're looking at like our players to watch for the Carolina Saints game, look at the names.
Yeah, they're not great.
And
They're not.
fucking look at this one. Look who I picked for this one.
Yeah, but the name Terry McLaurin to me stands out more than fucking Devon Bailey.
All right, let's see your Chris
all right.
Berman.
I will. Oh, dude, I can't do it quite like you did. You were ready for that. Washington against the Giants. 2.5 spread there, very very narrow. Sorry, I'm also trying to look for the spreadsheet here. Going Washington 2.5. Now with Mariota back in, they were not too bad with him, and the Giants defensively have just been bad overall. So I think that that Commanders have a chance to steal this one on the road. Looking at Terry McLaurin as my player to watch. We saw him against Denver. Start to become something that we were hoping to see of him all year, barring the injuries. But that is all I really have for Washington. That is a bad game. Moving on into Indianapolis versus Seattle. I am going here with Indianapolis plus 13.5 for one reason. Phillip Rivers, baby. I'm so excited to see what happens with that. Low expectations, but I'm willing to take an L on this one pick. Right now, though, I'm going to go player to watch here with JSN. Just been on a ridiculous tear, and I don't think that's going to stop here, especially without Sauce Gardner. Flying through it here, Tennessee at San Francisco. There's nothing to say much about this game. I can't really defend Tennessee on this one. Going with a San Francisco team that, for the most part, has been healthier than we've seen them all year. I like San Francisco to keep that tear going, and McCaffrey probably going to have a huge game as well. But I like Jawan Jennings here to get that passing game going. He's been consistent for them, and I think that he's just going to be a target that, Purdy can still rely on. And finally, poop game of the week. I mean, Panthers, New Orleans, this one was kind of gross. I'm going to Carolina just because they're the only team in this matchup that has something to keep playing for. But again, I'm looking at the names that we're highlighting here for a player to watch. I got Jalen Coker, a guy who started to pick up there behind Tet. But against a New Orleans defense that's also just horrible. He's got Bryce Young is going to have to go to some other options, and I think Coker's definitely been one of those that's stepped up with the targets that he's gotten.
Very nice.
All right. I'll get her started. Washington at the Giants, in my opinion, the poop game of the week. I'm on the Giants here. Both these teams suck. Washington 32nd ranked defense, New York ranked 29th. However, Giants 76 against the spread, 2-0 against the spread with rest advantage, and they are 6-4 against the spread after a loss. Coming off after the bye, had a good amount of rest. I like Jackson Dart better against this shitty defense. I'm rolling Giants. Next game, Seahawks at Colts. Yeah, it was basically summed up. Phillip Rivers probably asking one of his 50 million kids if they want to play catch this week to get warmed up. Sam Darnold been playing like an MVP candidate, 9-2 against the spread of -6 or more. I'm rolling Seattle, hot hand here. Move down, Tennessee at San Fran, -12.5. Kyle Shanahan masterclass I see incoming. San Fran cover easily. Fun fact, Tony Pollard, 25 carries last week, was the most for him since November 24th of 2024 when he had 24 carries against the Texans. Also, Shanahan first blown lead as a head coach, 10+ was to the Titans back in 2021. So good team history there because there was nothing fucking else to talk about in this game. Lastly, Carolina at New Orleans, the official poop game of the week. I'm also on Carolina. Big division game for them. Need a win, especially if the Bucks lose tomorrow. They're right there to win this division. That would be huge, especially for Bryce Young. Defensively, this team's a little bit better than the Saints. I know Tyler Cuck has been, getting it done. But I just like Panthers a little bit better. Player to watch, I skipped over all of them. That's so my bad. Player to watch, though, for me, Devin Neal. Kamara's still not playing. He had a pretty good start last week. He scored his first career touchdown. I like him this week. Yeah, that's what I got.
0-11 against the spread as favorites.
The Panthers. Oh, yeah,
Carolina?
I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
No. I sorry. Yeah.
This year?
Since 2021, they're 0-11.
Ugh.
That can't be right.
That
They were
is
favored
right.
against the Jets this year, and I took them, and they covered.
That might have been after the line switch. Do you know what week that was?
I am looking for it right now.
7 or 8. It was a posted graphic. I took Carolina against the Jets. I swear.
That's a pick of the week.
They were favored. It was a pick of the week.
Yeah, but I don't think it hit. Oh, it did hit.
It did hit. They were
But
-1.5.
I don't think they opened up as favorites. That's my assumption there because I got that stat
okay.
off of Action Network.
Sorry to
Last
correct
time
you.
Carolina played New Orleans, it was -5.5.
That was a pick of the
Not
week, I
cover.
believe.
That was a pick a week, and it did not hit.
It was me.
It was.
What does Tyler Shuck have to do for you to refer to him mainly as Shuck and not Cuck? Because I think every time you refer to him as Tyler, you say the last name's always Cuck, and the last few weeks he's cucked you. So who is the cuck in this scenario?
Probably me, especially because he's still sitting on my taxi squad. But fuck that guy.
But before we wrap it up, I still have one more button on the soundboard to press.
Oh yes. There it is.
It's prop time.
Going back off of last week's props, first debut of it, Isaac Tesla did not hit for me, got 2. But Amon-Ra ended up playing. And that was the big thing there. 2 catches with Amon-Ra. If Amon-Ra does not play, I think he gets 3 comfortably. Brooklyn highlighted Jalen Hurts and how the under in 180 did not work, but 4 turnovers came out of it. Kind of insane. But shout out Nick. Josh Allen passing yards. Oh, they over smashed. Good job.
Thanks, man.
You got the you're the only winner of the props last week. You can start us off.
All right. I am going with a running back prop here. I'm taking DeAndre Swift over 12.5 rush attempts, -105. These lines are from DraftKings. 75% hit rate on the season. And I know we mentioned already Cleveland's run defense, but last 3 weeks, starting running backs against Cleveland, they have covered their carry lines. Swift's averaging 14.5 carries in his last 10 games. I know the split backfield with Mononga is kind of a little concerning, but he's still rushing the ball. So I like his over here.
I also went with a running back. I'm talking Thursday night football. One of the few days of the week where there's not football. Tuesday night, of course, but we're Thursday night football. Bijan Robinson to get over 37.5 receiving yards. I got it at -115 on DraftKings. Last matchup against Tampa, 6 catches, 100 yards. Still no Drake London, and this line is hit in 8 of 13 games this season, 62%. One of those games he finished at 37, so it could be 9 and 13, but 8 and 13. Also, 8/13, that's my birthday, so I was like, oh my god, this has to hit.
It's a lock for that reason.
It's destined.
Well, I'll be going to my, one of the local high schools here for Wednesday night football. No. Talking about the Jags versus the Jets, I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence here over 220.5 passing yards here. I'm not really testing any unders. I mean, like I said, Jalen Hurts had the most absolute nothing 240 game ever. But highlighting T-Law here, gave him a lot of praise earlier, has been playing a lot better than he started off the season. In terms of this number specifically, he has covered this 3 out of the last 5 games. The only 2 times he hasn't, I believe he was playing Houston and the Rams. Now, last 3 times he has covered this has been against teams that are a little bit less competitive. And last week with the Colts, Daniel Jones injury, gave the Jags a lot more opportunities here. Now going against the Jets, projections here have him right up to 260 yards as a cap, but I said this before, he should be seeing plenty of offense right now. With the Jets probably not going to be able to do much of anything. Expect to see a lot of punts from that Jets team, giving T-Law plenty of chances here to get the ball moving. So
Shout out Brady Cook. If you took those 3, you put them in a parlay, that'd be plus 572, which I will be doing. But with that is the weekend recap. I already did. Yes, you I was too eager. I couldn't wait.
I just did it now.
Picks of the week, you have myself, Raiders at Eagles. I took the Eagles at -11.5. Nick, Arizona at Houston, taking Houston -9.5. And Brooklyn, Green Bay on the road against Denver at -2.5. No more paper bags. No more paper bags next week. We have not had an episode where all 3 of us have hit on a pick of the week, and it has to happen, and I think this is the week.
It's going to happen this week.
You'll see us next week with paper bags.
No paper bags.
No paper bag. I'm actually
paper
ripping
bags.
up the... You see this thing? If they needed it, I'm going to fucking throw
You know
this
what?
away.
You know what?
Oh my god. Oh my god. For those who can't see, Nico just ripped up his paper bag.
Because I don't.
Wait for me
Now that
back
means it
next
has
week
to
with
be.
like a different paper
That
bag.
means it has to be. Because what are you going to wear? Yeah, what are you going to have to wear? You're going to have to find something else.
I'm never going to be able to find another paper bag, but it's because I don't need it. I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all.
Don't waste. Don't kill the trees. Come on.
It's already killed. It's already made into a bag. It can be recycled still. Socials.
That's an injury.
Socials is always like that _pod. Posting obviously reels, some off the pod content still, some this or that, player A, player B. So like that _pod wherever you get your social media. And that's all I got, guys. Best of luck next week.
Best of luck. Roll Texans, baby.